Welcome to the second episode on working with PVC sheets, and this episode is on cutting out your PVC. So you've made your patterns and now you've got to actually cut it out of the PVC material. I'll be working with Palite Project PVC, which is my absolute favorite brand of PVC sheets. And one thing you're going to want to consider before you start cutting out your pattern is that PVC does have one way that it will bend easier than another. So if I look at this, if I try to bend it this way, it bends pretty well. And if I try to bend it this way, it doesn't. I'm putting all my effort into this. Whereas if I do it this way, bends, like I can almost fold it in half just with my hands. It won't stay there until you apply heat. But one way is going to bend easier than another. And you want to take that into consideration if you're making a piece that needs to bend. For example, this is my piece that will wrap around my hips, and I want it to be able to bend a little bit open so that I can get it on over my hips. So I'm going to have to pay really close attention to which direction I lay this out on my PVC sheet before I cut. Now, you don't need a ton of tools for cutting out PVC. You're going to need something to mark on the PVC. Most of the time, just your pencil works fine. If you're working with black PVC, I recommend using a silver marker if you can get one, or a normal pencil can work because the graphite will leave a shine on the edge. So that works. And then for cutting out, I like to use just a snap blade, snap box cutter. You can also use an X-Acto knife for the thinner layers of PVC. You can use scissors even. 1mm and 2mm, you might be able to use scissors. 3mm and 6mm, you're going to need one of these. And if you want it to go really fast, you can use a bandsaw. Anytime I cut 6mm PVC, I use a bandsaw because using an X-Acto knife takes forever. Not a lot of people have a bandsaw though, so this will work, it just might take some elbow grease. So now that we've made our patterns, let's cut them out. So my first step is to tape my pattern pieces down onto my PVC just so that they don't slide around. The PVC is usually soft enough that if you trace over the tape, it'll leave an indentation. But after I pick it up, I go back over and make sure those places are filled in. I like having multiple pattern pieces that I can lay out at a time so that I can be sure I'm making the maximum use of the space on my PVC while also paying attention to that bend direction. After it's all traced out, then we get to cut it out. So I usually do one stroke that's pretty light and then 2 strokes to deepen it. So one stroke that's light, another stroke, so that one only needed 1. And that first stroke just kind of gives me a guideline, because if you go in deep the very first cut and you make a mistake, you're in trouble. So I make a light cut first just to almost act like a perforation. And then I go through and layer over that again. Also, I am cutting on my carpet, but that's because I've cut PVC enough to be really familiar with what it feels like when the blade breaks through, so I'm not worried about damaging my carpet. I would recommend, if you're new to cutting PVC, putting it on top of some cardboard so that you'll cut through the cardboard instead. Now, if it's a piece you're going to put trim on, after you cut it out, you're going to want to compare it to the original pattern shape, just because in cutting out, you may have accidentally cut it out slightly bigger or slightly smaller. So I'm comparing it to my trim shape to make sure they do still fit together. Now I'm going to tape my trim down onto my piece, using the natural edge of the PVC for one edge so I don't have to cut everywhere. Tape it down, trace it out, and then cut it out. Curves can take a lot longer than straight lines. It's just a matter of patience. Okay, now I've got my pieces layered together, they fit right, and now it's time to get to gluing. So tune in soon for episode 3, which is all about the different kinds of glues you can use on PVC.